Hey guys, welcome back to the channel on this beautiful Wednesday evening. Nice little beautiful 78 degrees. Perfect night to work on the inventory garden. So I'm going to show you how I've got things spaced out. I'm going to show you the inventory garden, and I'm going to show you what I'm doing to keep things cool in the heat of the summer over the top of my lavender. Then I'm going to take you out to the farm, and we're going to talk in depth about weeds and weed control and how the taproot of different weeds can suck up the moisture of your lavender and really give it a challenging situation. I actually had a comment on my channel where someone was asking about weeds, and so I thought if that was a concern of one person, it was probably a concern of many. So we'll talk in depth about that, maybe even talk about different weeds that may have bigger tap roots than others. So stick around with me for that, and we'll talk great depth about weeds. In the meantime, let's show you the inventory garden. So what we have here is I'm doing I like the crushed limestone. Like I had showed you before in a previous video, I actually planted those two varieties in the crushed one in the crushed limestone and one in the bird's eye. But here I'm covering everything with the crushed limestone in the hopes that it'll keep that crown cool and also maybe help raise the pH a little bit. So what we have here is we have a Sharon Roberts. We have a Pacific Blue. We have an Aberrili, I think is how you say it. A Grosso or Grasso. Some people say it differently. Tomato. And we have a New Zealand Blue. Celestial Star. French Fields. And then these varieties here are what I'm doing my test with. But I'm still covering them with the crushed limestone. The inventory garden is going to go all the way over here. I may struggle a little bit with some sunlight right back towards the barn here. But for the most part, this is in good sunshine, 7 to 8 hours a day. Really nicely. So I'll keep you abreast on how things are going, and in the meantime we'll go over and talk about weeds. Also, I wanted to mention that these that I'm putting in, the Celestial Star, Cynthia Johnson, they're all Angustifolias, so they're going to be more cold tolerant. We're in zone 7, and I've mentioned it many times before, but I just want to make sure that in this inventory garden they're going to be, durable and long lasting, and I think Angustifolias will do well here. Talk about weeds. So here we have a lot of weeds, a lot of mixtures of different kinds of weeds. How we want to do it is kind of pull from the base. Best to do this right after a nice light rain, which we've had. Kind of pull from the base as best you can and pull it straight out. Shake everything off and discard. Now, just because weed is a 4-letter word doesn't always mean it's bad. This dandelion, for instance, this has a very deep taproot, which helps break up the ground underneath and keep it kind of porous so the water can get through to the lavender. It also holds moisture, so not every weed is bad. And so, you know, most of them are. I'll maybe go over a couple that are not. Dandelion, I'm gonna probably leave this just because I like that taproot in there, and it's far enough away from my lavender that it's helping it create pockets for the water to extract from. And for those real tough weeds, you want to use kind of a narrow tool here to just kind of pry them up. Pry them up. Now I know it's very tedious, and it has to be a labor of love. But if you can't get them out, try that and just pull them straight out. You know, try and keep as far away from your plant as possible. You don't want to upset anything around it if you can. Now for like the grasses and stuff, I like to just cut them all the way down to the base, and you'll have to do it repeatedly, but eventually it'll starve it of moisture and it'll die. So for those real tough ones that you can't get out, you just want to just kind of cut them all the way down and starve them. They take a little while, and again, tedious, but remember, labor of love. Make sure that if you do this weed barrier, weed cloth, keep it enough away from the plant so as not to suffocate it and keep moisture in. That will be the kiss of death. Always avoid wood chips and compost and straw, because they're going to keep it too moist around the crown and encourage rot. Now remember, they are going to be, weeds like water more than lavender does. Lavender likes it dry, so the weeds are going to soak up all the moisture. Another reason you got to get rid of them. So what we want to look for that are not good weeds is something with a thick central root, like a carrot or something like that. Hard to pull out. Thistle, plantain, those types of things are not good for you want to pull them out as quick as possible. And it's probably easiest to remove them when they're young, and that main central stalk isn't so thick. It means it's going to have a deeper taproot and harder to get out anyway. Other threat weeds are kind of like ground cover. Crabgrass and Bermuda grass and chickweed and clover. Those are going to grow laterally, and they're just going to suffocate. They're going to steal moisture and crowd everything out. Other weeds that seem harmless but can be a big problem because they hug the ground tightly and trap moisture are spurge and purslane and creeping weeds, different types of creeping weeds. That's going to give you your best situation, but you know, you may keep the dandelion in for a little while just to see if it helps break up that moisture or the soil. But remember too, what I should have covered earlier, weeds like this dandelion attract pollinators. And there's lots of other types of weeds that attract pollinators that can be beneficial to your lavender. So kind of be mindful of that. So some weeds that, other than this dandelion, that are good for that is clover and like different kinds of wildflowers. Now those are gonna help pollinate the lavender, just kind of because they're in the same vicinity. So there is some beneficial weeds, and some of them are going to actually help with erosion control as well. So if you're kind of on a hill like I am, you know, some of these deep tap-rooted weeds are going to help with erosion. So another benefit. So the main takeaway here is most weeds are bad, and you want to keep them free and clear of your lavender. But all in all, weeds are not the enemy. Competition is. Competition for water, competition for sun, competition for pollination. These are your real challenge. So before you start yanking everything out around your lavender plants, kind of assess the situation and maybe see what ones are good and maybe keep a few of them in small moderation. So before I sign off today, I wanted to show you a little project I did. This used to be an 18-foot culvert that I had on my farm. I dug it up. Well, I actually had the excavator people dig it up. They moved it out of the way, but then I couldn't pick it up with my tractor. So I had to cut it up into small pieces. So I figured, rather than throw it in a landfill, let's make something useful out of it. So I'm gonna make some planters out of it. I'm gonna high pressure spray these and probably paint them a nice green color or a white color, like a khaki color, something like that. And then fill them full of rock and soil and make some nice planters, spread them around the farm, put some lavender, maybe some rosemary, some whatever, wildflowers, I don't know. But anyway, thought you'd like that. So, hope you all have a great weekend. Happy planting, happier nursing.